In this session, let's get into the Azure portal and create an Azure app service. Simply type app service into the Azure portal search bar and select it from the list of results. To get started, you can click the Create button on the top left. This opens a drop-down where you can choose to create a web app, a static web app, a web app plus database, or even WordPress on app service. Each of these options lets you quickly spin up a hosted app with scalable infrastructure, built-in DevOps, and your choice of programming language. Let's select the first option in this case. This is the page where you configure the core details of your web application before deployment. You'll start by selecting your Azure subscription. This ensures billing and resource usage are tracked under the right account. Next, choose or create a resource group to organize your app with related resources like databases or monitoring tools. Under instance details, give your app a unique name. Azure will append this name to create a publicly accessible URL. Choose whether you're deploying code or a container, and then select the operating system your app will run on. Windows or Linux, depending on your tech stack. For region, pick the Azure data center closest to your users or aligned with your compliance needs. The pricing plan section lets you choose the performance level and features based on your expected load and budget. Plans like Premium B3 support high availability and scaling needs. Lastly, you can choose to enable zone redundancy, which increases availability by spreading your app across multiple availability zones. Let's click on Next. You're on the Database tab, where you can optionally set up a database to support your application. By default, the Create a Database checkbox is not enabled. If you enable the Create a Database checkbox, Azure will automatically provision a database along with the required virtual network and connectivity resources. This saves you time and ensures your app and database are tightly integrated. You'll start by selecting a database engine. Azure recommends SQL Azure, which is a fully managed relational database built for cloud workloads. Then you need to specify a server name. This will be the logical server that hosts your SQL database. Below that, provide a database name, which will be used to store your app's data. If you want to enhance performance and scalability even further, you can choose to enable Azure Cache for Redis by selecting the checkbox under the Cache section. This is useful if your app will benefit from in-memory data caching. Once you are done with these settings, you can click Next. In this step, you are on the Container tab where you define how your web app will run using a container. Here, you'll select the source of your container image, which tells Azure where to pull the container from when it's time to deploy. You have three choices. You can start with a quick start image for fast setup, pull from your own Azure Container Registry if you already pushed your custom image there, or use other container registries like Docker Hub. Right now, I have chosen the quick start option, which is great for testing and getting up to speed quickly. Under sample, you can pick a predefined image. In this case, it's a Windows container on Azure App Service. This particular image is designed to help you understand how quickly you can deploy and run a container in Azure App Service without any custom configuration. The image and tag field just below shows you the exact container path Azure will use to pull the image. You don't need to make changes here unless you want to use a different container version or registry. Once you're done with this tab, simply click Next. Networking to continue configuring your app's connectivity. This step is especially helpful when you're working with containerized applications and want a fast, simple way to test deployment within Azure. In this step, You're on the networking tab, where you configure how your web app connects to the internet and other Azure resources. This is where you decide whether your app should be publicly accessible or privately contained within a virtual network. You'll start by choosing to enable or disable public access. If you turn this on, your app will be accessible over the internet by default. If you turn it off, you'll need to configure private networking settings so the app can only be accessed securely from within an Azure virtual network. Next, you can decide whether to enable virtual network integration. By turning this on, you're allowing your app to securely communicate with resources like databases or APIs that live inside a private network. Then, under virtual network, you either select an existing VNet or create a new one in the same region as your app. For inbound access, you can choose to use private endpoints, which restrict access to your app so it can only be reached from within the selected virtual network. This adds an extra layer of isolation and security, especially useful in enterprise environments. Just note that private endpoints can't be used if public access is enabled. Lastly, in the outbound access section, you can specify whether you want your app to make secure calls into your virtual network by enabling VNet integration and then choosing or creating an outbound subnet. Once you've configured the right access and network setup for your needs, click Next. Monitor plus Secure to continue. This tab ensures your app is set up with the right connectivity and access rules from the very beginning. In this step, you are on the Monitor plus Secure tab, where you enhance the visibility and protection of your web app by enabling monitoring and security tools. First, you have the option to enable Application Insights, which is a powerful monitoring service that helps you detect issues, track usage, and understand how your app performs in real time. By selecting Yes, you will connect your app to an Application Insights resource, which is automatically created if you don't already have one. This service gives you rich telemetry and diagnostics for .NET, Java, Node.js, and .NET Core apps. If you are using other languages in your container, you might need to manually add the Application Insights SDK to your code. Next, you can choose to enable Microsoft Defender for Cloud for your app service. This adds an extra layer of threat detection and security monitoring. By enabling it, you get intelligent insights into attacks, suspicious requests, and vulnerabilities across your environment. It's a great option if you want to proactively defend your app against modern threats. Click on Review plus Create Now to create the web app. This will deploy your web app successfully.